This is John Bailey, the epic voice of Honest Trailers, and you're listening to the Fiveish Fangirls podcast. It's a Fangirls podcast with five-ish people. The tangents and squee will continue. Squee.
The tangents and squee continue all the way to episode 502 of the Fiveish Fangirls podcast. Do you hear the people singing the song of angry Gormans? Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Fiveish Fangirls podcast. So glad you could join us. Let's start off like a direct with the virtual table and see who joined us this week.
This is Chrissy in Salt Lake City.
This is Sally from Wisconsin.
This is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Just be glad that's all the singing I shall be doing. All right, then. Well, let's jump right into the news. Not a whole lot of news at the moment. Did want to remind folks that coming up this weekend, as of this recording, that would be June 27th, 28th, and 29th here in Indy is Indie PopCon. Downtown at the convention center. Should be 3 days of all sorts of shenanigans. I can't even tell ya. There is so much going on. I'm looking at the schedule and I'm like, I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to do that. And they're all at the same time. That's not physically possible.
No Tag Turner for you.
No, not at all. I mean, it's a first world problem and a good problem to have. I mean, we've got escape rooms. Of course, we got the celebrities. We've got cosplay competition. We've got we're having there's going to be a fashion show. There's going to be a drag show. There's going to be improv from our friends over at the group formerly known as Breakfast Anytime, now known as Second Breakfast Improv. There's going to be the live podcast stage. There's going to be secret games. Of course, there's going to be lots of fan-related panels, photo ops. There's going to be gaming pretty much 24 hours a day for the entire weekend, both of the video and board variety. There is going to be laser tag. There are going to be magic shows. So there's going to be a film festival. We've got the podcast awards. So a lot is happening over the coming weekend, and it's quite exciting. But I did want to point out, if you can survive till Sunday, hopefully I can survive to make it to Sunday afternoon. I am actually hosting a panel.
Oh, yay.
Yes. So it is going to be Sunday at 1:00. And I don't remember what room it is in. Let me double check what room right now. Room 241 is where it is. It is
Put that
scheduled
in pencil in case things would happen.
Yes, time and location should put in pencil, as things may or might not change between now and when the weekend kicks off. But essentially, it's a panel ish. Technically, it's just going to be kind of a roundtable discussion of an opportunity for me and others to talk one-on-one, and to actually hear from the fans, the people specifically at PopCon, about stuff related to the book I'm writing. So
Oh,
that's essentially
cool.
what it is this opportunity to chat to the people. And if people want to speak openly at that during that time, they're more than welcome to. Just know that it may be recorded because my memory is the length of a goldfish. Um, so I don't remember a lot of stuff, but I will also have my survey is still up on the interwebs. If anyone wants to go fill that out, you can now, if you like. But I will also have paper copies for folks to fill out a shortened version, because otherwise, if I wanted to print out the survey that is online, I'd be killing a small forest with the amount of paper it require. Uh, it's a lot of questions. Um, well, it's not necessarily a lot of questions. There's a lot of space for writing, is really what it is. Uh, and then I will also have the info for if people just want to access the online version right there and then. And go ahead and fill it out during the panel time. They can do that too. So really, it's just kind of a live forum discussion to hear from the people that my book is kind of aimed at. So I mean, I'll be talking to people throughout the weekend as well, but this is kind of an easy way to be like, hey, I'm going to be in this room at this time. Yeah. So um so that'll be fun. I'm actually doing that panel again in conjunction the following weekend, but in conjunction has not finalized their schedule yet. So hopefully by the time we do next week's podcast, which will be the week going into in conjunction, that their schedule will be more um in at least written in pencil. It's not written in anything right now. Uh so
It's written in invisible ink.
it's written in invisible ink. So I mean, they what I know what they've sent me, but it is not posted on the website yet. So I don't want to. I'm gonna wait till it's
Right.
posted on the website. And
You don't want to misspeak in case something
right
changes. Makes perfect sense.
exactly. So, but yeah, that should be fun. I'm excited. I'm excited for PopCon. I love PopCon. You guys know that, and of course, I'll have a full recap when I return next week, assuming I survive. There's a lot going on. And then uh, for your podcast beats for our Golden Army, we have our latest episode of Gold Standards in your main feed, where we talk about, of course, it was one I suggested, one of my absolute favorite movies of all time, and that would be Labyrinth.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a lot of fun to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
As it is.
Oh yes.
So, and then in Patreon for this month's Gold Standard patron supporters, we talk about it's a little fish movie that came out 50 years ago that kind of made a
Made you afraid to go in the
splash.
water.
Yeah, it kind of made a splash in like how people go to the movies, especially during the summertime. You may have heard of it. Yeah, you may have heard of it. It's called Jaws. So, oh yeah, and that was fun to talk about as well. And of course, like we have not covered Jaws, but we have given the director his own episode, and we've also given the guy who wrote the score his own episode.
Yes.
So, and that's where
that's
where that relationship came together, is with that fish
Mm-hmm.
movie. So,
Yep.
so there is that. So that's really it for the news at the moment. Cosplay? Check. Gaming? Check. Celebs, panels, and unforgettable memories? Check, check, and check. Indie PopCon is the ultimate celebration of all things nerdy. Get your tickets now at indiepopcon.com. So, moving on to feedback. Of course, we got some feedback from Shalane. So she says, "Hey girls, happy podcast birthday. Sorry I missed last week's message during the big 500 celebration, but here's a big old batch of feedback. So it's a mix of late thoughts and current ones. Let's go." Yeah, she's like, she said, "I'll forgive you for not going live on YouTube." Like, we're lucky we were able to go live at all.
You can't
Considering that-
see me, but I am reenacting that Dumbledore meme where he just kind of shrugs. He's standing at the trial and just like, well,
yeah. Like the technical hoops that I had to go through just to go live anywhere was, an accomplishment. So, we tried to let people know it was going to be Facebook, but not everyone uses Facebook. I understand. But we figured, that was where we get quite a bit of engagement from people. So we went where the people are.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go. Did you know the scene from the Thunderbolts, aka the New Avengers, was filmed in Utah? I'm pretty sure that's a first for the MCU, at least that I've heard about. I'll be patient when you girls eventually talk more about movies filmed in Utah. So far, you've mentioned Pirates of the Caribbean and John Carter. Well, Doctor Who also filmed in Utah as well.
Yes, it did.
Mm-hmm.
It was funny. Was it last year? I think it was last year. There was like celebrating 100 years of films being made in Utah. Which is interesting. And some of the ones that one of my coworkers at the library did a little library display. It's like these pulled in a bunch, and there were some that I'm like, that one, really, that one. I mean, some I knew, but there were some that I was kind of surprised. And of course, I'm sitting here thinking about it. I'm like, which ones were they that I was surprised at? But anyway, so yeah, that is. That would be,
and the thing is like, something could be filmed somewhere and it may be just like a scene.
Yep.
Not everything when it's filmed someplace is everything is filmed there. So
yep. Yeah. I mean they filmed Jack Sparrow in the Seventh Circle of Hell out on the Salt Flats, which I'm like,
yeah,
that is not surprising.
Yeah.
That is not a bad choice.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if we really wanted to, we could do like High School Musical.
I don't know a dang thing about High School Musical.
I know.
I've never watched it.
Yeah, me neither.
I mean, I'm not. I don't dislike it, and I don't dislike the people who are big fans of it. It was just never. It was after my time, and I'm really not.
Yeah.
And it wasn't on your radar.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, it was only. I just thought like, oh, it's a dumb Disney Channel movie. I mean, some of them are fun, but I'm like, I'm too old for this. Then it went nuts, and everyone's like, "Oh, what's up, filmed at East High School?" I'm like, "Hell, what? Yeah, okay." So yeah,
Yes,
it was a thing.
Yeah. So, since we're getting docu-films about Britney Spears and Michael Jackson, what jukebox musicals would you girls love to see based on your favorite music artists? And then she gave us a nice list of ideas, which I could see a number of those being done at possibly some point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I know a
at this
trailer
point,
dropped recently for Springsteen, so that'll be
yes,
fun. And
but that's
show,
more
Jesse's
of a
gonna be
biopic.
happy. Biopic, yeah.
But yeah. So there's, I mean, just I know jukebox musicals in general are, when it comes to theater fans, those tend to be kind of divisive. People tend to either like love them or hate them in general. So, I mean, the ones that I've listen to, I like, even if not necessarily all the music is my cup of tea, but I think it's always kind of interesting when they can take a song that you know and rework it in a way that it's like, completely different, but it's still like, oh, this is really good, actually. So, um, I think it's only a matter of time before we get. The thing is, some jukebox musicals aren't necessarily about the artist. Like there's some like the one about Frankie Valli,
Right.
or the $1 Million Quartet. Those it's about that artist and therefore they're using their music, but not every jukebox musical is about that person or that artist. So, I'm thinking like, And Juliet, which is a newer one, and it uses a number of like the types of pop songs that were hot when I was in high school, like Backstreet Boys and uh, you know, artists like that, your boy bands, your Britney Spears type, Christina Aguilera. But it's the story of what if Juliet decided not to die. Essentially, if Juliet decided, Romeo, whatever, no thanks. So it's a take on Shakespeare, but using modern-ish music. So that's kind of fun. Oh, but yeah, it's probably only a matter of time. Although she did just get the masters back from, so it may be a while before Taylor Swift offers up her music for somebody to use for a musical.
Yeah.
It would be pretty good, I think. I think her music, and it doesn't. I don't think it would need to be a bio, like a bio
No.
musical either. I think her music could tell like a really fun story. I think. So, said, fun fact, some of these artists already have songs featured in Moulin Rouge or And Juliet, but I mean full musicals like Mamma Mia or Jersey Boys. I've also heard rumors of an Elton John musical one day. Let's see. She's seen Mamma Mia, Jersey Boys, and 42nd Street. Then she asked to sing it in the rain count. Of the time period, yes. She still needs to see Moulin Rouge and Juliet, Xanadu, The Cher Show, Tina, Michael Jackson, and the Britney-inspired Once Upon a One More Time. A Knight's Tale and My Best Friend's Wedding are reportedly getting jukebox musical versions, and Princess Purple Rain is getting adapted too.
I would totally go see a musical of A Knight's Tale.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would too. Oh.
I would do it.
Yep.
That could be interesting. And of course, TV and movies that are basically jukebox musicals, shows like Smash and Glee, and movies like Trolls. Yep. Especially Trolls. Let's see. So non-Disney movies with one or no parents. Disney is the only one who kills off parents. Here's a list. Because she gives another list. Shrek, Anastasia, Trolls, Despicable Me. We don't need to talk about the trauma of killing off a parent in The Land Before Time, please and thank you.
No.
I came across a reel earlier today, and it's the lady in it. She's like, she's looking for something to watch, and she's complaining because her kids were watching something modern she didn't think was necessarily appropriate, and then a version of herself from the 80s comes shows up and is like, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, why don't she's like, I just want to go back to the family friendly fun stuff that we watched in the 80s. As she keeps going through this stuff, and realizes just how much stuff in the 80s wasn't necessarily appropriate either.
Mhm.
It's a bit. It's a bit not necessarily
Kids,
family friendly.
kids in the 80s and 90s, we were built different. Maybe a little more
Yeah.
in the 80s too, but no, some of us
Yeah.
these kids, we had our trauma, and we
hmm I'm looking at you, never ending story.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
talking about summertime. She says, I love summer, sunshine, swimming, wearing shorts and capris. Fun fact, these places regularly hit 100 to 110 degrees. Places like Palm Springs, El Paso, Texas, Dallas and Houston, places in India and Africa. Like, yep. I think I think when I posted in the chat, it was 93, I think technically, but it felt like 100 earlier today. So
we're finally down to 71 here, but the past few days it was like 95, 96. Feels like 105. I'm like, nope, I'm staying in. I'm not stepping foot outside.
Yeah, like we're having to get creative, like strategically placing like fans so that like we can get good air circulation going without like also drying everything out.
Yep.
So it's okay, I'll still take it over the cold. I totally get why people head south for the winter in places like South America, Australia, and parts of Africa. The seasons are flipped. That is true. I do know some people in Australia, and yes, as it's getting warm for us, it is getting quite cold for them. Actually,
yes.
They're wearing like pants and sweaters and coats in the middle of June.
It's like 46 degrees where they are right now. It's like,
yeah.
If I could afford to do so, I would finagle away to live during the cold season when it's hot here, like flip it, but I go back and forth just to avoid the hottest part of summer.
Yeah.
Like I'll go live in Australia for a few months. Although
the thing with Australia is that like the country isn't that big comparatively to some others, but depending on where you are, you may get slightly different climates. So like if you're on like the coast, like towards a beachy area,
the coasts are nice. It's like
it's when you go like inland into the mountains and stuff. So same thing with New Zealand. I mean, there was a reason they were able to film some Lord of the Rings in actual snow, is because that they were mountainous areas that had snow. So
also, you really don't want to live on the north coast of Australia because it's either way too dry or way too wet.
Yeah.
And it's just I don't know. I watched a documentary about it once, and I'm like, oh gosh, this sounds awful. That's why there's like no really, really huge cities on the north coast of Australia. Even though
depending on where you go in Australia, you can cover almost every climate, beach, mountains, snow, rainforests, jungle, take your pick.
Yeah.
Just throw a dart at Australia and you're gonna hit a particular climate and environmental system. So
and you're just like, okay, here we are.
Yeah. Like, and then also everything there wants to kill you.
That
So
too. It's like if I thought I could, it's like somebody posted a picture of a palmetto bug in Florida, just making a joke about it. I love my time in Florida, but those bugs are a major reason why I would not want to live there permanently. It's like those bugs are even bigger than some of the dogs, which is just unnatural. It's like no, no thank
like
you.
what ooze did you step into and out of?
It's like Florida, you're one of my favorite places in the world, but not with that creature.
Yeah,
I'll even take the alligators.
Yeah. That's why when I go to Florida, I stay in the Disney bubble because Disney treats their property for things like that. So occasionally stuff will get in because it is nature, and nature's gonna do what nature's gonna do. But in general,
there's a reason Florida Man is a meme.
yes.
And God bless him.
Exactly. We love you, Florida Man.
We do.
Thank you for the entertainment. She says some of our favorite episodes, because we talked about that a little bit during our live show. She said, I love episodes where you talk about Disney, pretty much any animation, musicals, Marvel and Star Wars, and mystery celebrities. She says, I know I'm almost 30, but Ashley Eckstein is one of my new heroes. You're never too old for a new role model. Exactly. I discovered Audrey Hepburn and Jane Austen in college, and they became huge inspirations for me too, my spirit animals. So about 2 years ago, Ashley Eckstein and Jodie Benson came to Southern Utah to see Josh Strickland, who is the OG Tarzan on Broadway, reprise his role in a local stage production. I was so sad I couldn't be there. Josh had also played Prince Eric and Joseph in past productions. David Archuleta even stepped in one year for Joseph in the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Yes, I know Shalane's got a picture of her with David Archuleta.
Yes, that was the year she worked at Tuacon.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
Yes. Very cool.
That was a big deal.
Yeah. So I forgot Ashley was on the Disney Channel. So technically she's the first Disney Channel alum to appear at Salt Lake Fan X. I read her book. She really helped me not give up on working in theater. I'd taken a break from it, but she gave me a boost. That's good. I too have Ashley's book. She signed it for me when I met her a couple of years ago. Also referencing one of the many random topics we went through during our live show, including some childhood favorite candies, where we certainly overlap in some spots, like Gushers and Reese's and M&Ms. Yes. Yep. He's somewhat deprived where he lives on the globe. And in some cases, he gets stuff that we don't get. So, that's just the way the world turns.
It's a trade-off. It is.
Yep. I've always been a pop girl. I grew up on Spice Girls, Britney Spears, Backstreet Boys, and Kelly Clarkson. I stopped listening to country around age 9 or 10. Yeah, I went back and forth with country. I listened to it as a kid, in between my Disney Renaissance soundtracks, and then when boy bands and the like came around, I was like, country what? Then got back into it, and then I dropped it again. So
definitely has to be a certain era for me.
Yes.
As discussed previously.
Yep. She's a big fan of anything from Jane Austen or Shakespeare inspired stories, of course. Some thoughts on reboots. Not sure how I feel about the Harry Potter TV reboot. I understand that. More okay with the Twilight series. Why? There's talk that Jenna Ortega from Wednesday and Astrid for Beetlejuice 2 might be in it.
That one was not on my radar.
Either.
You know what? It made a lot of people happy. Like what you like. It's all right.
Yep. And considering the way it ended, they could always bring Michael Sheen back. Just saying. Then she postulates some potential pop culture references we might see reference in the final season of Stranger Things, considering the year it's set in, including things like Dirty Dancing, The Princess Bride, Adventures in Babysitting. Although, if you ask Steve, it's been Adventures in Babysitting for 4 seasons already. So, yeah.
Pretty much. Although, I will say, if they want to be, The Princess Bride was actually, yes, it was in theaters in 1987. It didn't really have much of an impact while it was in theaters. It was after it came out on VHS, and we had the the glorious time of the video rental store where you're like, oh, this looks interesting, let's rent it and watch it, and then you take it home and you're like, this is amazing.
That's true.
So if they are like reference Princess Bride as being like anything massive or a big hit or anything, that might be a problem.
I mean, it doesn't have to necessarily be a big hit for them to want to reference it. Just it's something from that.
Oh yeah, they could. It's just it would
time period. So
yeah, it would be a little bit odd if they chose to do that. Because anyway, it's fine. It's fictional. Who cares? But yeah, it's kind of like, well, it really wasn't. It really didn't do anything in '87.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they're necessarily going to have a lot of time, considering the way that season 4 ended. That going to the movies is going to be something that happens.
they have a lot of stuff to cover, and they don't really have a whole ton of time to be doing the pop culture fan service thing. Although there will be some.
Yeah. I would say though that I could potentially see maybe like Robin wanting to go see it because maybe she thinks like Robin Wright is cute.
Oh, and
she shares a name with her.
That is possible.
So,
yeah, I'm not saying no, but it's just like, it's.
Oh yeah, because I mean, for a lot of things, the stuff that they have referenced has been big stuff that was big even at the time it was released, like Star Wars, Ghostbusters, Back to the Future.
Yes, so that is true. Well, we'll see.
Yeah. So just a reminder that Jeffrey Katzenberg no longer works for DreamWorks. Doesn't matter. He's still got a reputation. He's been called the Emperor Palpatine of the animation world.
I could see it.
Yeah. Although up to a certain point.
And fun fact, he was part of the inspiration for Hades and Hercules.
I see it.
Oh, me too.
I do. Yeah, that's what we call.
I don't care for James Woods, but that just makes his performance even funnier.
That's what we like to call the entertainment industry. You don't get stuff done by being nice.
Yeah.
Although it'd be nice if they had fewer sleazeballs, but that's another topic.
Yep. She says she went and saw the new live action How to Train Your Dragon, and she really liked it. It is mostly a shot-for-shot remake with a few new additions and some changes. And she said, yes, both the How to Train Your Dragon movies and Lilo and Stitch were directed by the same person. And yet one of those is, well, I think technically, yeah, I was like, money-wise, not terrible either. Reception, I know Lilo and Stitch people have been very hot and cold with the changes they made, especially to the ending.
Yeah, that ending. I responded to the How to Train Your Dragon remake by going and buying a 3-disc set of the animated trilogy and showing it to my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
She now wants to be Astrid for Halloween.
That's adorable.
It was funny. We were watching it in the beginning. She's like, "Mommy, this is a little scary. I don't know if I want to watch it." But then she just kept watching it, and then we got to the end. And she got this from preschool. Is if she had a good day, she gets a thumbs up. If it was an okay day, it's a sideways. Bad day, it was a thumbs down. So now, anytime I say,
"What is she, a Roman emperor?"
I don't know. It's just something she picked up at preschool, so now she does it. So I asked her, like, so we were finished watching the movie. Did you like it? And at first, she's like, the beginning was the beginning was this, and for the sideways thumb, but the ending was that you gave a thumbs up. And so we watched the second movie, and she's like, that one's a thumbs up, but it was a little sad. I'm like, well, yeah, that one is sad. We have yet to watch the third one, just because life has been busy, but it's on the dock.
Yeah, so. I've only ever seen the first one. Oh, I remember at the time I was like, maybe I should give it another shot.
The second one It's pretty good. I think of it in terms, and keep in mind, I have not seen the third. We haven't watched the third one yet, so I don't know for sure. But I think of it in terms of like there was the Tobey Maguire of the first Spider-Man, pretty good. Second Spider-Man, excellent. Same thing with How to Train Your Dragon 1 and 2. Although I have heard 3 is the third one is really good. So the analogy ends there.
Yeah. True. I also read that they're planning a live action sequel already for How to Train Your Dragon. Well, the first one made money, so that, and they can keep pumping people to go to Universal to go visit the Isle of Berk. So
which I have heard amazing things about.
It looks really good. Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't, like, other than Toothless and Hiccup and Astrid, like, I don't know who anybody else is, like, character-wise, but just from the looks of it, like, the walk-around characters look really good, that the dragons look really good. It looks like a lot of fun. I just would not get most of the references, so.
And that's fair.
Yeah. But it does look like a lot of fun. And then if we do get a Spaceball sequel, I hope it includes Easter eggs for the MCU, DC, Avatar, Harry Potter, and more, just like the original poked fun at Star Wars. I am sure. There's definitely gonna be some superhero references.
Yep. There's plenty of room for all that. So.
Oh yeah. So, that's all for now. Until next episode, thanks for making the podcast space such a fun and welcoming place.
We do our best.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Shalane. Love movies? Love debating whether the Academy got it right? Help us keep the conversation going by supporting Gold Standard, the Oscars podcast, on Patreon. Your support helps us bring you more in-depth discussions, and who knows, you might even get a say in what we cover next. Join at patreon.com/goldstandardoscars. All right. Well, moving on to this week's main topic. Speaking of Star Wars, is we are finally going to talk about Andor Season 2. So,
spoiler alert now, if you haven't watched Season 2, please come back.
Yeah, I had some running commentary as I was watching last night, and Chauncey's like, will you stop that? You're spoiling it. I got ahead of him.
You're like, no,
I'm like, but you don't know context. He's like, yeah, I don't care. Like, okay, fine.
And Rachel, I apologize. I completely forgot about said spiders in first episode. I'm like, oh crap, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I finally got it. I was like, okay, time for Andor, and I'm like, starting episode 1, and this is like, because they're essentially trying to cram 4 seasons into one.
Pretty much.
So
they didn't do too bad of a job, but it was like,
so essentially this is 4 3-parters.
Yep.
Each one encompassing essentially a year in Cassian's life leading up to the events in Rogue One. Yes. So everything it starts with 4 years before the Battle of Yavin, which is obviously the big battle that destroys the first Death Star. And then 3 years, and then 2 years, and then 1 year. So obviously, if you've seen Rogue One and/or anything else Star Wars going, from, Battle of Yavin forward, or even, leading up to that, it's like there's some this is one thing I did say to Chauncey, and it wasn't a spoiler or anything, because he was actually ahead of me at one point, and then I got ahead of him because I was on a deadline. He's not.
Right.
But I was like, at one point he asked me what I thought so far, and I'm like, it's dark.
Yeah.
And I don't mean he's like, do you mean like visually or storyline wise? I'm like, I mean storyline wise.
Yes.
Like
yeah.
it is dark.
Oh yeah.
Some of the stuff that they cover in this. So which I mean, it kind of has to be for the rebellion to get to the point that it is the well-oiled machine that we see in A New Hope.
Yep. And if we didn't like Krennic to begin with in Rogue One,
yeah.
we got more reasons to hate him even more.
I mean, Mendelsohn plays a really good villain anyway. He's one of those actors that's really good at playing villains.
Yes.
So he's been the bad guy in a number of things. He's the bad guy in Ready Player One. Ben Mendelsohn is a really good bad guy. Which I'm sure means he's a super nice guy in person, as himself. Yeah, that's usually how it goes. But yeah, it has to, because what we're seeing in this is the rebellion starting to happen. I mean, we even got some of that in the first season, because I mean, Luthien, who is essentially he is codenamed Axis on, as far as those outside of the rebellion only know, kind of this. He's not necessarily the leader of the rebellion, but he's this like lone wolf that's able to like get in and out and connect people and get info and wheel and deal, because the rebellion is these little pockets all over the galaxy, and at some point those pockets of people need to come together, and that's what happens at the end of this. They eventually all come to Yavin 4, and it allows the rebellion to become this big, like I said, well-oiled machine where they know there's no Cassian keeps running off and just doing whatever, and they're like, dude, but what's up for the fact that every time you take off like a wild person, you come back with important information, we'd chain you to a chair or something.
Mm-hmm.
But the only way that the rebellion is ever going to succeed against the Empire is if they can, like the Planeteers, their powers combined.
Mm-hmm.
They are the rebellion. They are the Power Rangers coming together to make Megazord. They are Voltron. Take your pick. So what we're seeing is, some of these, little pockets, some are successful, some are not. Like when Cassian lands on, we don't know it at first, but after he steals that prototype TIE fighter, which that was an actual set. Like they built the TIE fighter to scale outside and in, and it could sit on the soundstage on its own. Like they like a lot of our other Star Wars series on Disney Plus have been using the giant soundstage that has the giant 5,000K screens,
right,
that allows them to do really amazing digital map paintings. Yeah, essentially. Not for this. They're like, we are doing location and or we are building proper sets. Like the Gorn set is 500 yards long.
Wow.
Or something. I think I'm exaggerating a little, but it's huge. So yeah, there was a lot of practical sets, a lot of practical props and that sort of thing for this. So, they gave them a big budget and they made sure to spend every penny of it. And probably then some, actually.
Let's squeeze and squeeze some more.
Yeah, but I mean, from everything I've heard from the fans, is they really appreciate that, and they said you can tell that they actually cared about the finished product, and it shows. And it
just
made
that wedding celebration, that was something.
Yeah, I mean, everything I've seen that people are just like, this is some of the best Star Wars that Disney/Lucas has done in a long time. Probably since we first got The Mandalorian.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'd agree. Not that the others weren't anything to sneeze at. I mean, man, this one, it was just like, wow.
Yeah. It is really, really, really well done. And they do a fabulous job of making sure that this slides right into Rogue One, Rebels, any of the movies and or shows that are set around the same time period. They have made sure that even pulling stuff from the expanded universe, that they're not contradicting themselves. So that's a big deal, because I know the as far the expanded universe has always been a thorn in fans' side anyway.
Right, yeah.
Just because of the lack of continuity, because George was all like, oh, you want to write a book? Absolutely. And continuity never heard of her. Yeah.
Or then when they started, it's just like, okay, which continuity are we going to pick and stick to?
Yeah. There's just no consistency of there. So this has helped fix that a little. So obviously the big thing in this is the eventual discovery of the Death Star, because as this starts, nobody outside of the Empire, and even within the Empire, they've tried to keep the Death Star as close to the chest as possible. They did not want to show that card anytime soon, even though they literally have been working on building this Death Star for a decade. As far as as far as time is concerned. But to get to the discovery of the Death Star, a lot of stuff has to happen. A lot of dominoes have to fall in a very particular way. And some people have to, some people come in and they leave. Some people come in and they die. Some people come in and they stay. I was telling Chauncey, I said, as thrilling as this is, and as exciting as it is, and dark and gritty as it is, it's kind of like listening to Big Finish. And they give us those cliffhangers where they're like, oh no, with the Doctor and companion. And I'm like, I already know I know when this Doctor regenerates. I know when this companion leaves, they're gonna be fine. And it's kind of the case with some of these. Like, I was never concerned for Cassian's safety. No. I wasn't concerned for Mon Mothma's safety. Saw Gerrera at the moment is fine.
Yeah.
Bail Organa is fine.
Still. We're fine.
Yeah. It's like, some of y'all, I know that they're trying to make it thrilling, but I am not concerned about your safety whatsoever, regardless of what the cinematography and music is trying to make me feel. Others not so much, and some of them it's people were speculating because they were releasing this essentially each year. Each block of 3 episodes was getting dropped every week, starting when the show came back in April. And people were speculating, well, we got this character and they're never mentioned, and beyond this in Rogue One or in anything else. So do they die? Do they what? And in some cases, yes, they do die. In some cases, the character isn't significant enough to make it for them to give us any like closure. And what happens to like Mon Mothma's daughter? Like the marriage was just that was a really it was a business transaction. Her marrying off her daughter to this guy's son, and then because he was trying to kind of blackmail them because he knows
what I got.
Yeah, because like he kind of is aware of what Mon Mothma's been doing on the.
It's like he's playing both sides of the fence. Like, yeah, I'm gonna help you, but then I could also hurt you.
Yeah, he was all like, well, they're like, what do you want? And he's like, oh, nothing, but I do have a son that's about your daughter's age, and I think they should meet. And arranged marriages are not unusual for their particular group of people. Their society, arranged marriages are not unusual. So we get to see like everything that goes into a Centrillian wedding, which is like a whole it's a multi-day affair. With all these different ceremonies and stuff. But really it's just it's really an opportunity for certain people to come together and be able to talk and it not be suspicious.
Right.
So
well, and then sometimes I felt so bad for Mon Mothma because she's trying to be mother of the bride, but then she's also got this other stuff hanging over her head, and it's just like, It's like world espionage, and then trying to run a rebellion while being in the Empire and not trying to get caught.
And being part of the Imperial Senate.
Right.
Her daughter apparently hates her. So. But I imagine, especially by the end of this, considering Mon Mothma is, essentially leaves the Senate, which is not the end of the world because the Emperor is going to dissolve the Senate anyway.
Right.
But even if she had stayed, her position was not going to remain. But her taking off to Yavin, like her marriage is in the toilet anyway. Yep. As we see, it looks like her husband has been having an affair with the wife of her friend whose marriage was also on the rocks, but he's dead. So, it's all good, I guess. And they can go on to continue playing, high society host and hostess, and she's off on Yavin 4 helping run the rebellion. And, her daughter's off living her own life, and like I said, her daughter doesn't seem to like her very much anyway. So the fact that, she hasn't been in contact with the daughter, whatever, her daughter's just off doing, being a wife, I guess, probably in a unhappy marriage.
Right. I mean, because, this is brand new front story, backstory, because we never get that mentioned in any of the extended universe and, other Star Wars.
I mean, essentially, it is showing that by the time we get to the end of this, it is showing what the people that are going to be an active part of this rebellion have given up or sacrificed
Right.
for essentially the quote unquote greater good. And in Mont Martha's case, she's given up her marriage, she's given up her political career, she's given up her daughter. You know, her daughter's now married. She's probably, you know, but as far as Mont Martha knows, she could have grandkids out there that she's not going to know about, and never get to meet.
Right.
So, but that is the choice that she has made. You know, in some cases, some people are making choices for other people. We'll get to that when we talk about casting and picks. But you know, you've got Mon Mothma and her part of it, and then we've got Luthien, who has been, like I said, kind of this, you know, this lone wolf that manages to get himself into making connections and all sorts of things, and both as himself and then also as his antiques shop persona. And we finally get some more backstory on him towards the end,
Right.
from his assistant's point of view, and Clea, and you know, we find out about how he kind of started. You know, he was Imperial and eventually was like, screw this, and decided to start sabotaging as he was working his way out. And he ends up, you know, finding Clea as an orphan, essentially, and brings her in and starts teaching her all the ways of espionage. As an adopted father, although not the most fatherly adopted father. But you know, that like one of their first like big like noticeable acts of rebellion is blowing up that bridge. That bridge is in I think it's like in the home city of Palpatine, I think. So it's like Palpatine's like home city or something. It's like, you know what, Palpatine, screw you. I'm gonna actively destroy something that's from a place that you know. And there ain't nothing you can do about it. It's his way of say, you know, kind of giving the middle finger to the Emperor at that point. Whether Palpatine knows it or not. That's the other thing, is like going, you know, all the stuff with the ISB specifically, is the idea of how many people think that the Emperor isn't aware of what's going on. How much Palpatine is or isn't aware of what's going on. And that's an interesting thing, because he is such a puppet master, to the point where even the people that are working for him don't necessarily realize that they are doing things that are the product of his manipulations. Like, they think that they're doing something maybe on behalf of the Empire, but it's like, you know, does the Palpatine know everything that's going on in every single division and workspace and whatever? You know, they're kind of convinced that he doesn't. And but you know, as Palpatine even says in, you know, whatever Star Wars movie it is, you know, that he's like, you know, paraphrasing here, he's like, everything that's happened is by my design. So he's absolutely aware of what's going on, you know, even if he's not actively part of it, he does know. But you know, it's Luthien through his strategery that you know, we finally someone in the rebellion, you know, that's not a double agent, you know, learns about the Death Star. But in the process of that, it costs Luthien his life. But I think he was always aware that he was probably going to die. He was not gonna get to see the end of this. He was gonna do what he can until his back is up against the wall, and then he's like, I'm gonna go out with all those secrets in my information in my head, so that the Empire doesn't get it. And then but then the Venn diagram is like, Mon Mothma, you got Luthien, and then like Luthien's kind of the center, and then you've got Cassian, who is as we know, was reluctant to join in the first place, but as circumstances happened in season 1, he eventually, by meeting Luthien, just by happenstance, he gets roped into this. But now he's at the point where he's like, he's willing to do jobs, but at the same time, he's like, I kind of want to get out of this. He's with Bix now. They've got a relationship, even though Bix is unfortunately struggling because of the stuff that she went through in season 1. He'd really prefer to just be able to grab her and go off somewhere and find their own little corner somewhere away from all the fuss. But that turns out not to be the case, because Bix ultimately makes that decision for him, and she's like, I'm gonna leave, you're gonna do your part in the rebellion, and when the dust settles, if possible, we'll find each other again, then we can live happily ever after. But we know that's not the case. But there's a lot of crap that has to happen between, even in the 3-ish, 3.5-ish, almost 4 years that this covers, with who do you trust, who do you not trust, even within your own family, the relationship between Deidre and Cyril's mother, which God.
Oh boy. I kind of liked it when she put, when Mama got put in her place. And it was
I do too. I like it. Like, like that was just like awkward dinner. It's like the first time the mother-in-law meets the missus. And
like, ooh, this is not gonna go well.
And it's like, the thing is, it's like, obviously Cyril has a type.
Yes.
He likes strong women.
Right.
But problem is he tends to pick strong women who also like to take that strength and push him around.
Right, control.
It's not so much strong, it's controlling. The difference between Deidre and his mother, though, is his mom is just like, a chatter. I mean, she is Jewish, stereotypical Jewish mother. If Judaism exists in the Star Wars universe, she is a Jewish mother. Constantly talking, constantly complaining about this, that, and the other thing.
Not happy with the success that her son has, and
not happy at all with anything. Deidre, on the other hand, she is just as manipulative, but she doesn't need to talk about it.
Right.
She is very much more, her manipulation is so much more quiet
and subtle.
But it's like, it becomes too much, and Cyril goes and just like, collapses on the bed. That was not scripted. He just decided to do that. Like, I think he was supposed to get up and leave the room. It was the laying down bit on the bed and looking forlorn that was the not scripted part. I think it's hilarious.
Perfect. It was perfect.
And Deidre just being like, "Okay, listen up, you little witch.
Yeah,
he's
here's how
my
this is
man
gonna
now.
go."
Yeah, he's my man now. I've got his balls in a vice grip now. You don't.
I got it by the short girlies. You don't have it by the short girlies anymore.
Mm-hmm. I was telling Chauncey, I said, I don't think Cyril's like the minute like Cyril's mom, gave birth to him however many years ago. And for those that don't know, when boys are born, their balls don't necessarily are there right away. They have to drop. And it's like the minute that boy's balls drop, his mom grabbed a hold of him and has been holding on to them until Deidre came along, and she's like, "Okay, these are mine now."
Yeah.
I was like, when she puts his mom into her place, I'm like, "Oh, you go, girl." But at the same time, I was like, "Oh no, this is not healthy, though."
Nope.
This is still not healthy.
But then, good on him when he realized that Deidre was kind of playing him, and when he grabbed her, I'm just like, ooh boy. But then it's like, okay, good on you, but I wouldn't have necessarily gone with the choking route. But
the problem,
good for you for standing up for yourself.
Yeah, problem is it's just a little too late.
Exactly. It's like, okay, where was this 5-6 episodes ago, bud?
Yeah. I was like, he was just a little too slow coming to the party with the rest of us.
Yeah.
So yeah. It's just like, he was actually like, if the Gorman massacre had not occurred, which we will talk about in a second, he may have like possibly completely defected to go side with the people, the Gores. But as it were, the Gorman massacre happened. Now the thing is in the expanded universe, there is there is an event that is called the Gorman Massacre in the expanded in Legends universes. It is, but that takes place in about 18 years before the Battle of Yavin. So what they've done for the series is they've taken that and renamed it to the Tarkin Massacre, and that is the story that the bellhop from the hotel tells Cassian when he shows up to Gorman, because there's a memorial built in the center of the town square, and that's pretty much how the bellhop, the hotel employee, says is how it's explained in the expanded universe, is that he wasn't Grand Moff Tarkin at the time, but he's the asshole that's eventually going to be become Grand Moff Tarkin. He doesn't have that title yet.
Maybe this massacre kind of put the wheels in motion for him to get said title. We do not know, no idea. But I wouldn't be too surprised if that were the case.
Yeah. So, but at that time, the people of Gorman were protesting taxes, the Empire's taxation of them and other planets in that, in that sector. And so Tarkin is coming to Gorman, and he's, of course, being the asshole that he is coming in on a huge Imperial ship, because he wouldn't ride in anything else, of course. It's got to be something fabulous and large and powerful. And wants to park it right there in the middle of the town square. Instead of like, landing on a proper like landing pad outside of downtown Gore, Paloma essentially. And so the Gormans, the Gore, are all like, you're not parking that thing here. So they all come and, gather in a crowd like you do, and they're protesting, thinking that, it's like, if we stand here, he'll be forced to go park himself somewhere else. And of course,
and do this
Tarkin being
peaceably.
Tarkin. Yes. And of course, Tarkin being Tarkin, as we saw,
he don't play
with,
that.
We know homie don't play that. We saw that what happened to the planet of Alderaan.
Oh yes.
He decided, no, I'm gonna park. Not that he's the one actually doing the parking, but it's the ship he's riding on. He's like, no, me and my ship are gonna park right here, and if you don't get out of the way, we're just gonna park on top of you. And that's exactly what happened. They ended up landing the damn ship on a bunch of people, squashing them, essentially. And that's why that memorial is now in place. So that is what in the expanded universe was the Gorman Massacre, now known as the Tarkin Massacre, so that the Gorman Massacre could be the bloodbath that occurs in the series here, which is brutal, it is awful, it is incredibly well shot, though. Like, it is
yes,
a fantastic piece of cinematography and editing, and the choreography with stunts and the fighting and everything. But in this case, it is now the people of Gorman are protesting the Empire coming in to, supposedly they're building a factory, because the Emperor has a supposed energy initiative. In truth, what the Empire really wants to do is they are going to strip the planet of because apparently this is the only planet in the entire galaxy that has this one mineral that they need to help power the Death Star.
Yep.
Good old
Kids Supreme.
Yes. So it's like they've got their Kyber.
Yep.
But they also need this mineral to help because as we see in Star Wars with the destruction of Alderaan, that the laser that the Death Star uses is extremely powerful. So it's a combination of the power they need for just the Death Star to run and be able to move it throughout space, and then the laser also as well to be able to destroy shit. So there's been a lot of manipulation through the ISB and the use of the media. The art imitating real life is not lost on me, but that's the way Star Wars has been since 1977. So 79, late 70s, to the point where the people of Gorman are like, screw this, we're gonna protest. You think that the gathering in the town square to protest after what Tarkin did, they would learn not to do that again. But fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, I guess. And essentially they are walking into a trap because they're essentially fish in a barrel. Because the square is really more of a circle, and that they're completely surrounded by buildings that are, a lot of them house imperial people who work for the Empire, whether they are people that work in office buildings like Deidre's husband, Cyril, or Deidre, and is also working there. She's the one that's supposed to, she's the one that gets put in charge of the Gorman operation, even though at first she doesn't want to. And but there's also like the hotel, and other businesses like that, but they're essentially putting themselves into a giant barrel, like a bunch of fish, where they can just be picked off. And that's exactly what happens. So it's wild, because when we first go to Gorman and we start seeing some of the people talk to each other, and so it's one of the, this is the introduction of a new language within the Star Wars universe. And listening to, as soon as they started talking, I was like, and listening to it, I'm like, this sounds like it's some sort of Western European language. I was like, it's either French and or German. So I looked it up, and yes, it is based on French.
Okay.
They're using French and German actors to do those speaking parts because it's easy enough, because it's close to their native language, for them to speak. But the fact that essentially the Gors speak a language, their language is based on French, and their clothing is somewhat French Revolution inspired. Some of them are wearing berets, and they go protest. They start marching out into the square protesting. And I was like,
put in chat, it's like,
I was like, they are having a Les Mis moment.
Mis moment. Yep, exactly.
And then they're in the square in their crowd, chanting, we are Gore, the galaxy is watching. And I was like, all they need to do is start singing. And then one guy starts singing. And so a bunch of them start singing. I was like, oh my God, it's Les Mis in space. They're at the barricade. It's Marius and his friends. Like, do you hear the people singing the song of Angry Gore? The minute the one guy started singing, I was like, oh my God, it is Les Mis in space. They're having a Les Mis moment. It's like Cassian is not necessarily part of it, but he becomes part of it. It's like, he is Jean Valjean, and Deidre is oh my God. Oh. I was like, I can't. It broke me. I was just like, I couldn't. It was just like, I was like, I do not know how much of that was intentional or not, but I just could not. I was like, Cassian, you're Jean Valjean. Deidre is Javert, even though she actually doesn't know what Cassian looks like.
all Cassian's missing is the number.
Yes. At the hotel, because he went to Gord once, in disguise. He washed his hair and slicked it back and put on better fitting clothing.
Pretending to be blended, but
yeah. But then he comes back and he's looking more like Cassian Andor, and it's the same guy working in the hotel, and he recognizes him, and Cassian is all like, he sees what's happening and he's like, I'm not sure if I'm coming back. Like my stuff's up in my suitcase in my room. And the guy at the hotel worker is like, you were never properly checked in. Nobody will ever know you were here. I'm like, he's like the priest that gave Jean Valjean the silverware.
Thanks, buddy.
Oh my god.
And then we get some classic scenes with Alec Tudyk as
oh my god, yes.
K2.
Thankfully, they Cassie does get out in the process that collects the droid that will become K2SO. Which brings some nice levity back to it.
Yes.
Especially after the Gorn massacre. I was like, welcome back, Alan Tudyk.
Yeah. I mean, just his robotic reaction when the communication goes down. It's just like, ooh, this isn't good.
Yeah. But when he first turned him back on, after they've put it back together, he's like, I'm sorry if I've offended you.
Yeah.
But if I haven't, would you please put those guns down?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh. And then on top of everything else, you got Saw Gerrera, who apparently has just spent his entire life getting high as a kite and has burned through a lot of brain cells.
Yeah.
Like, I always knew Saw was a bit of a loose cannon.
Yeah, but this, it's just like, okay, yeah, this
is
kind of
just
explains things, but then it's just like, dude, whoa.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great speech that he gives.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's it's not, Luthien's speech from the first season is probably still the best. But I mean, the speech that Saw gives is still pretty good. And then unfortunately we get the speech that Mon Mothma gives to the Senate, but that's like her, it's kind of her, like, I quit right now.
Right, her swan song.
Yeah. The speech that she gives once she gets to Yavin is supposed to be like the speech, but she gives that in one of the cartoon series. I don't remember if it's Rebels or it's one of the cartoons that she gives her like speech that is kind of like the big, like, the rebellion is on type thing, because once they find out about the Death Star and the all the stuff that gets revealed in Rogue One, is kind of the thing, the spark for the rebellion that we will come to know and love. So but yeah, Saul is just all like, he's just like, I'm just over here on Dakar mining fuel that is necessary for these starships to be able to fly. At least some of the starships, that's what he's doing is that mining this fuel that is used for some of the starships. But apparently he's been huffing it for a long time, and like even just like the like breathing oxygen thing like you see like some people have in like hospitals, he's like taking hits of it on a regular basis. I was like, oh my god, Saul, what are you doing? But he's a necessary part of it, as much as everybody is all like, dude, you are off your rocker. But at the same time, as we learned in Rogue One, if it wasn't for him, Jyn Erso would not have survived. So it is because of him that Jyn lives to eventually meet up with Cassian and work together with their other ragtag group of little rebels, including K2SO, to get those Death Star plans and get them off to the princess. That unfortunately is, watching this, like I said, I never felt nervous about Cassian's fate because I know he has to live to go into Rogue One, where he will die, which is unfortunate because that means he doesn't know he's got a baby. He and Bix had a baby, and that's probably why she took off when she did. She was probably like, oh shit, I'm pregnant. Well, he'll never go now and fulfill his destiny. It's like, I'm gonna go take off and hope we survived in the end of this, and then we'll get reunited, and that's not gonna happen, unfortunately. But that does mean Cassian's got a child.
Yep.
Out there that hopefully has survived everything and could pop up at some point later.
Yep. And no, it's not Poe Dameron as much as a lot of people want to say and speculate.
That would just be weird.
Yeah, it would.
No, because we don't even really know if it's a boy or a girl.
Exactly. Because it was never really clear. And, when she was holding and comforting and talking to the baby, it was,
Yeah, she never says.
She never
says a name or.
Nope.
Nothing. So.
And yes, it's really closed captioning on. So, nothing. Nada.
Yeah.
Zippo,
it's hard to tell. Yeah, and you can't really tell just by looking.
Right.
So, yeah. If you assume that when she left was about the time she discovered she was pregnant, which was probably early on in the pregnancy. Right. So, she might have been, 6, 8, 10 weeks pregnant, maybe. So you figure she takes off, goes, essentially, she goes back to the planet that she was on at the very beginning of the season. Because they've got friends and stuff there that were left behind. It's just a farming planet. An actual farming, not like moisture farming, what Luke Skywalker has to do. Actual farming. Stuff that grows in the ground. Looks kind of like wheat, so we're gonna assume that it's the Star Wars equivalent of wheat.
Grain.
And and by the time we get to the end of the season, baby's probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 months old at that point. So it hasn't been too long since she gave birth, but yeah, I don't think it was necessarily anything intentional. It's just one of those things. I don't know if that wheat field, that grain field, was a set or if that was on location somewhere. But it was really funny because she's walking out into the field, just kind of watching looks like it's probably close to the end of the day. The sun's starting to set. It's getting to that golden hour, beautiful type time of day. And she's just kind of holding the baby, and the baby's got one leg out, and you can see it starts kicking like the grain was tickling its foot.
Yeah. Stop so that. Cute. I don't like,
It was very cute. I was like, I don't know if that was actually a thing. But I thought it was cute. So yeah, that's essentially Les Mis in space in a nutshell. So yeah.
And for being 2 seasons, I mean, that was perfect. I know people want a season 3, but it's just like, how much more can you do leading into
don't
Rogue One. You really can't. We're
don't
Yeah.
overstay
I
your
mean,
we're
welcome.
at a good stopping point.
yeah. I
Unless you want to
know.
do something with Jin and Galen Erso, but
Yeah. I mean, there's not really anything you can do because she and her father have been separated.
right,
Right.
exactly.
She hadn't seen her father in a very long time at the start of Rogue One, so you can't unless you go and rewrite what has already been established. Not really a whole lot you can do,
Right.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
I mean,
Some
Saw
story.
also appears in some of the cartoons, so we do
Yep.
get some of his perspective.
Some
during-
stories just run their course,
Okay.
and you know,
Yep.
once it's done, it's done, and
Yep,
gotta
exactly.
find something else
Yeah,
to work on,
I
so.
yeah, I think at one point I think they were thinking that Andor could be like 4 or 5 seasons, and each
Whoa.
season would have been a year
Oh, gotcha.
of Cassian, of the leading up to Rogue One. But
I like this format a little better. Yes, it felt kind of jam-packed, but it was worth it.
yeah, as it kind of needed to, especially considering what is coming.
Right.
We kind of need to, like, okay, we've got pre-Battle of Yavin. Now we've got that taken care of. So great. Then we've got Ahsoka, which is its own, yeah. Yeah, we also had Obi-Wan, which is also pre, Battle of Yavin and all that, because it's young Obi-Wan, so it's pre A New Hope. So it's like everything, like anyone important in New Hope has kind of been taken care of, like between this and Obi-Wan, and not just with Obi-Wan, but with young Leia and characters like that. And then we got Ahsoka, so we're getting a little bit of Ahsoka with Darth Vader / Anakin, that time period. We've gotten Rebels, we've got the Bad Batch, which takes care of, some of the clone troopers post Order 66. So it's like all that stuff pre New Hope. I think for the most part we've got it covered.
Yeah.
All things considering. So, and then the Mandalorian is post OG trilogy.
Right.
So, and that's kind of like our next big thing. We're supposed to get Ahsoka season 2, which they're working on right now. Hayden Christensen is, has been like, it's great to be back. He's been very excited about, doing some more, playing Anakin. And so we're gonna get Ahsoka season 2, and then we're getting the Mandalorian movie. So that's kind of our thing, is those Ahsoka with the Mandalorian is gonna help feed us into, hopefully, Thrawn,
Right.
because like we just got a little bit of Thrawn with Ahsoka.
Right.
It's like, you can't introduce Thrawn and then just kind of like sit him on the back burner. Like,
yeah.
It's like I know that there's been some higgledy-piggledy going on as far as people being the people in charge over there at Lucasfilm / Disney. I know Kathleen Kennedy, again, she was very, you either hated her or loved her, but she is who she is, and she made the decisions that she made. So it's just one of those things where we're just gonna have to kind of hold on to your butts, I think.
Yeah.
And wait and see that hopefully, and I know this is the general consensus of the fandom, that this was done so well that hopefully it means that they're starting to figure their shit out.
Right.
And we're headed on an upswing here.
Yeah. I mean, and I love Thrawn in the expanded universe. I mean, it's nice to have him, come to life on the movies, on TV screens. So
Yeah,
fingers
because I mean
crossed for more stuff.
he is such a formidable foe.
Yeah. I mean, he's kind of almost
without I mean, he himself, he is very formidable because he's very smart.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the people he has around him where we start getting into like more of the, obviously the Force is like the big thing, but to see the Force used in different ways outside of the Jedi with like the witches
Of
and
Dathomir and all that.
yeah, and other aspects of like the more supernatural aspects of the use of the Force, and that's kind of what Thrawn is tapping into, because he's not a Force wielder himself, but he knows, he much like Luthien, where he knows he knows who's an asset,
Right,
and
exactly.
knows how to use them to get what he wants and what he needs. So that's the thing is, if you kind of keep that in mind going forward with Thrawn, it's like he is kind of like Luthien, except Thrawn's not on our side. He's on the bad side.
Yeah. Well, Thrawn's on Thrawn's side because he
well,
doesn't.
That's true, but
he doesn't care if he goofs over the Empire. He's out for himself.
Well, that is true, but he's not on the side of good.
True. Yeah.
How about that?
Yes, he's not on. Yeah, he's not on the side of it.
Yeah, he's not. He's not going to be on anybody's Christmas card list.
No.
Anytime soon.
No.
So, but yeah. Well, anything else?
No, I mean, if you were kind of on the fence about watching Andor, give it a go.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it's 12 episodes.
It's a slow burn, but it's really it's worth it.
It is a bit of a slow burn. The thing is I think you could probably do it, if you don't necessarily want to sit down and binge it, because they are 40-ish minutes. If you skip over the recap that's at the beginning of each episode, which some of those recaps are quite long.
Oh yeah.
A bit ridiculous if you ask me. Some of those, and then of course the 5 million year long credits, because they have to give I'm not going to begrudge anybody who works on these shows, absolutely should get the credit that they're due, but because there are so many people, they have to give credit to not just the direct cast and crew, but also the ones that work on like the foreign versions. Because like if you go onto Disney Plus and you see like your audio and closed caption options, how many languages are available, somebody has to work on those closed captions and or audio dubs in those languages. So yeah, they absolutely do deserve credit, but it does make the credits run a little long. So it's an hour show with really only about 40 minutes of actual show. The rest of it is either a recap at the beginning or the credits at the end. It seems like. So you probably get about 40, maybe 45 minutes of actual program. But still, over the course of 12 episodes, that is a lot to try and binge. I binged it in the chunks, in the quarters. So I did 3, 3, 3, and 3. And that seemed to work really well, actually. You could reach the end of the that quarter, that block of 3, and just kind of like, stop, take it in, ruminate a little, and then when you're ready, do the next block of 3.
Mm-hmm.
That's me. Others may feel differently, but to me, that seemed like a reasonable way to consume this, considering the way it was given to us. So especially, you might need to take a breather after the first 3, because the entire time Cassian is stuck on Yavin with the stupidest characters I've ever seen in Star Wars. I don't know what in the Lord of the Flies they thought they were doing with this group of idiots, but oh my god.
Good help is so hard to find these days, or the scar is like, I'm surrounded by
so stupid. Yes.
I'm surrounded by people who do not know what they should be doing.
The only point I think that these guys serve is to show that there were people who were part of the rebellion that under different circumstances may have been very effective parts of the rebellion, but circumstances being what they were, they are going to
they are a footnote.
They are a footnote, a very small footnote, who don't really contribute to the rebellion whatsoever because they are stupid and disorganized. It is Lord of the Flies crap is what it is. I was like, what in the Lord of the Flies is going on here? I looked at Chauncey, I'm like, these are the stupidest characters in all of Star Wars I've ever seen in my entire life. He's like, yeah, I know, they're so annoying. Oh, yeah. So you may need to take a break after that first 3 just so you can give your mind a break to be like, okay, well, those are brain cells I'm never going to get back, having to watch those people. And then you can move on to people who are slightly more intelligent. Quite a bit more intelligent and a bit more organized. So someone could tell me otherwise. I think that's probably the point of those guys, is one, to give Cassian, something to do for those episodes, essentially do his heavy lifting for him to get the TIE fighter up and running so he can take off with it. But also to be like, and this is why the rebellion needs to be centralized and better organized.
Yeah. Well, like he even said,
we're not going to topple any empire with people like these.
It's just like, okay, the guy that's supposed to be flying the plane, he's not here. I don't know how to fly this thing.
No. The fact that Cassian got out of there with that thing intact
and alive is
dumb luck. Luke Skywalker, he is not when it comes to flying. So
no.
But yeah, that's like my one complaint is the whole jungle. Granted, it's cool when he finally gets when he manages to get the TIE fighter back and take off, and we see the temples and realize that he's been on Yavin the entire time. Which like, oh, that's cool. But before that, it's like, oh my god, really? But I guess it also gives you a little bit of levity before it starts getting really dark.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would say definitely some warnings.
Oh yeah.
Obviously the Gorin massacre is not pretty by any means. Although the people of Gorin give as much as they get, and funnily enough, even with all of those people in that town square essentially fish in a barrel, stormtroopers still bad marksmen. Yep. The number of them, it takes other people from the Empire with guns to actually hit anybody, because the stormtroopers are kind of still can't hit the broadside of a barn. So But yeah, the Gorn massacre is pretty brutal. There is one attempt at sexual assault.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully,
Yeah.
they're not successful, but it is kind of hard to watch. And there's a few deaths in here that are actually kind of, and they're self-inflicted is the thing, that are like, oh, that's dark. So, thankfully some bad guys do get their comeuppance, but at the same time, it's, this is the final push to, like I said, the rebellion as we know it. So, this just goes to show why, these types of things don't happen overnight. Even when you can see in places where people are being subjugated and treated unfairly and, in some cases being massacred, genocide, that sort of things, those can't be fixed overnight. Rebellions don't happen overnight, unfortunately. So it's a necessary story to tell so that people understand that, but at the same time it's like, it's rough is what it is. So anything else?
No, not that I can think of.
Nope, I don't got anything. But yeah, seems like we got a winner on their hands. So, but if any of our listeners have seen Andor and want to chime in with their thoughts on the series and just kind of or Star Wars or just whatever stuff we talked about today in our podcast, send us some feedback. Give us your thoughts and feelings and questions, comments, etc. Our email address for that is fiveishfangirls@gmail.com. You can also visit our website, which is thefivishfangirls.com. That has links to all of our social media. It also has our show notes. And you can leave comments there. You can leave comments on any of our social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all that stuff. And a reminder, podcast is up on YouTube. We also post some extra goodies there from time to time. So check that out. And check out, wherever you download podcasts we're there. And also check out our Patreon and our merch shop. All that stuff helps support the podcast, help us keep the lights on, as it were. We appreciate all your support, all your help, all your likes and comments and feedback and all that good stuff. We couldn't do it without you. We kind of could, but then we'd be yelling into a tin can, basically.
Yeah.
So thank you. That's as always. I say that every time, but it really, really do appreciate it. So. And stay cool wherever you are this summer.
Yeah. Unless you're in Australia, in that case, stay warm.
Yeah.
Stay warm and watch out for all this crazy stuff that wants to kill you. So, all righty then. Well, don't forget Indie PopCon this coming weekend. Stay tuned to the social medias. I'll just be wandering, doing my thing, except for the one panel that I've got scheduled that Sunday. So if you really want to find me, you can find me then. Otherwise, if you see me in the hallway or something, grab me, say hi. Yeah.
Yep.
like I said, I got a list of stuff I want to do. Other than my one panel, nothing is set in stone. So I am fully flexible for the most part. So if somebody's like, hey, I'm going to go do this thing, come check it out with me. Sure, why not?
So, cool.
So, but for now, I will have a recap when we get back. But for now, we shall sign off for this week.
This is Chrissy saying goodnight from Salt Lake City.
This is Sally from Wisconsin saying good evening.
And this is Rachel in Annapolis, Indiana. You think I'm crazy? Yes, I am. Revolution is not for the sane. Thank you, our Fiveish fam, for joining us on this week's geeky journey. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Stay connected with us on our website, thefivishfangirls.com, and follow us on most social media with @FivishFangirls. Plus, check out our nonprofit, Fangirls Give Back, to see how we're making a positive impact in our community. Until next time, stay nerdy and let the squee continue.